Hey everybody, welcome, and thanks for sticking around. This is Zenny62, later than I intended to start, but nonetheless here, and specifically to focus on this really ugly, from a media standpoint, story that the Raiders had signed a deal to play the 2019 NFL season at Oracle Park, and when in point of fact that it had not happened, okay? I'm not going to use the name of the person who I consider a friend who basically struck the match that lit the wick that ignited the explosion around this dynamite story that turned out to be, instead of, a real bomb, confetti, right? There's nothing there, okay? But, and look, why not? We'll say the person's name. I have nothing against Raj Mathai at all. I think Raj, from my remote acquaintance with him, I have not actually sat and had dinner with him or talked with him. Seems like a cool and decent dude, okay? There you go. And I'm delighted that he's the news director for NBC and has risen to that stature, and it's great, to be honest, to see people of color in that position, because we still have a long way to go in media from that perspective. People of color, regardless of whether they're male or female. But having said all that, dude, why did you do this again? What I'm talking about is last fall, if you remember and you followed the saga of the Raiders and stadiums in Oakland and Las Vegas even somewhat closely, you remember that it was Raj who put out this tweet on a Tuesday. What was it, the second Tuesday? And it was the third Tuesday in September, where he said, the lawsuit's filed, the lawsuit's filed. And in point of fact, the lawsuit had not really been filed at all. This Oakland City Council, as I reported prior to Raj, in fact, I did so back in August, the Oakland City Council had, before it went on recess, given the city attorney, Barbara Parker, the go-ahead to file the lawsuit whenever she chose. And so she sort of dragged it out, and there was a lot of teasing going on, but credit to City Attorney Parker, she did a fantastic job of keeping, as Michael Douglas character Gordon Gekko in Wall Street would put it, Ziploc mouths on the Blue Star deal, right? The Blue Star deal being the filing of the lawsuit. And so, but it was Raj Mathai who put out the tweet. Well, fast forward to Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm guessing, hey everybody, welcome to Zenny62. I'm guessing that Raj was thinking, or someone was thinking, maybe the Raiders, that, hey, it's a slow news day for Bay Area sports. We're not getting any buzz because all the buzz is going toward the participants in the 53rd Super Bowl. Let's put out this bit of fake news just to help out KRON, because it is fake news. And I'm saying that I'm trying to give Raja a way of getting off the hook, okay? Because it's turning toward, hey, he's done this before. Why does he keep doing it? And I don't think that, I'm going to say this, I don't think Raj is doing that intentionally. I believe somebody called him, or he called that person, and they gave him information that led him to believe that the Raiders indeed had signed a deal, and in point of fact, they hadn't. Now, once he got that information, all right, it was Raj's, in my view, Raj should have done a little investigative work and said, hey, let me call supervisors, let me call around. But what I think was in Raj's head was, if I put this out there, somebody else will get a hold of it, and they'll put it out there. But in point of fact, everyone else's attention was focused on the Super Bowl. He had enough time to check and see that there was a non-story. Something else, too, and I'm just going to say, I think, having watched how he's operated in the recent past, I think Raj is under pressure. Hey, Jeffrey, how you doing? From higher-ups to keep the NBC and Bay Area name relevant in a sea of independent media that's dominate in places where NBC is not and KRO is not, and that's social media. So he's got a lot of pressure on him, but all he has to do is just check, just call around and check. If there's no story, say there's no story. Or you know what? To me, the story is, hey, I got this call, I checked it out, but there's no story. But I'm letting you know that this is what I was put out there, to talk about, okay? That's a story unto itself. I think the more interesting story about all of this is what is how the sausage gets made, right? Who calls whom, who talks to whom, the calculations a person makes in terms of trying to figure out, for example, if the stadium tax that was levied on hotel rooms can actually pay for the bond issue that was floated by the Clark County in Nevada, that sort of thing, and through its stadium authority, that sort of thing. That is all really fascinating to me. Okay, but in all of that, I think it's really important that we take care to make sure that you, the fan, the casual fan, who you have another job, you got kids to take care of, you may be husband or wife, what have you. Everybody has their situation, but this is the other thing. Your other passion is finding out what's happening with your team, be it the Raiders, the Niners, the Golden State Warriors, the Oakland Athletics, the San Francisco Giants, Cal, Stanford, San Diego, San Jose. I was thinking of Bay Area. San Jose, Santa Clara. You get the idea, okay? You want to know what's happening, and you turn to folks like me and Raj and others to make sure that you're getting the right skinny. Nothing wrong with that. It's our duty, if we're going to put ourselves out there on a common basis, to work to give you that. Nothing wrong with that. But I also think it's our duty, and this is where I was getting into a little biff with my friend Chris DeBenedetti, to work together, because in a similar fashion, I'll get to later, but Chris put out a post for the East Bay Express talking about that the Raiders brand isn't global. Well, a year ago, I said the same thing, and all you had to do is go to Google or any search engine and type Raiders brand global, and you could see me as the only person talking about it in a vlog, which would come up particularly on Google, which has 92% market share on the first page. You can't miss me. So if I'm talking about it ahead of anybody else, what's wrong with giving me credit and working off what I said? Okay? So rather than acting like, and Chris had this post that made it look like he was the person that talked about it only. That was wrong. And Chris called, and we had a conversation, but I was under the impression that Chris was going to turn around, adjust his document to say, well, Zinni Abraham was the first to talk about this. Here's his take. Here's what I said. But maybe that was expecting too much from the East Bay Express, because they didn't do that. And then someone else on Twitter retweeted my original complaint, and I wrote back, hey, I expected an adjustment, didn't see it. And Chris put in a call to me, but I have not yet returned his phone call. I will at some point. But I found myself still extremely disappointed in what he did, because if I receive a call like that, and it's obvious that the person is concerned that they had it first. I've gotten calls like that before. I have no problem making adjustments like that. So it's concerning to me if I don't get the same treatment in return, right? So and I use that as an example because to show that in general the media, which complains that it's the traditional media in this way of doing media that they have, that has resulted in a lot of layoffs, I contend is because, and I've said this to Chris, folks don't work together. In the blogosphere, there is always a rule, which is separate from traditional media, that if you, and this is because I'm a blogger, I'm not a journalist. This is why I call myself a blogger and not a journalist, because my job is to link to something else out there that was mentioned, okay? And I'm going to say this, it's not going to be popular, but I'm just going to say this right out there. The traditional media has brought its bad habits from the 20th century into the blogosphere of the 21st century. And one of the bad habits it has is not properly linking to a source. In a blogosphere, you link to a source, you don't take something down, you add to it, you build up, which is kind of like an archaeological dig of information about a subject, right? That's the way you're supposed to do it. The archaeological dig may not necessarily come from your site, all right? But it may be from somebody else's. That's fine. But what's happened now in media as it's practiced, since traditional media has made its inroads online, it's been forced to, and they bring this other bad habit, which is, oh, I'm only going to link to other content on my site. I'm not going to link outside my site, okay? So in other words, from a statistical standpoint, you get increased page views, which makes your site more valuable next to your competitor, okay? And you get increased click-throughs and everything else. All that adds up to increased value for your web platform, all right? But the problem is when any organization establishes that practice as standard fare, regardless of what they write, and it means that they're going to outwardly ignore any other source out there that had the information before they did, unless they feel that they have to link to that, or maybe it's more prestigious for them to link to a source that everybody knows, like, you know, New York Times or so on, right? Okay, then they link to it. But if it's, you know, Zinnia 62 Media, they don't. There are occasionally people who do. And there's a local source in Santa Clara that did, when I was talking about the whole situation between the 49ers and Jed York and their rent situation and the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, okay? Thank you for linking. But that's the exception that proves the rule, okay? And all of that, you would say, oh, what does all of that have to do with the Raiders situation? Everything. Because if Raj were a blog player, he would say, hey, you know, Zinni talked about this in the past, and, you know, when someone else talked about this in the past, there would be these different links, and he would investigate it, and he would, you know, show a tweet from, or a Facebook entry from a person like San Francisco Board of Supervisors member Matt Haney, who said, the Giants have no deal with the Raiders, and we have concerns about the possibility of the Raiders playing at what would be Mission Bay, okay? And I think it's, now having said that, let me move into why it's locating and playing at SF Giants ballpark would be so problematic for the Raiders and not just the Raiders, but San Francisco itself from an environmental standpoint. I'm going to assume that a lot of you who are watching this don't exactly know the area that Oracle Park we used to call, hey, for example, we have a gentleman who's representing the Mets, hi, don't know where it's located, right? So I'm going to show you where this is located. It's very important, so follow me. Or as Q would say from the James Bond movies, pay attention, Bond. Like this, okay? This is what was called AT&T Park, now it's called Oracle Park, all right? This is San Francisco, South Beach. This is the Bay Bridge, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and expand outward, okay? So that you see this is Mission Bay. This is the area. Now, that's Oracle Park. Now, where I'm going to go here for directions, and I'm going to type something here. I hope they've installed it already. Chase Center. Chase Center. Chase Center. There. And see New Golden State. There it is. Okay, boom. Okay, look at that. Now let me move out a bit so you can see. This is the issue. All right. You see this? This is the issue. Okay. I'm actually going to make a photograph of this real quick. Hold on. That's the issue. Okay. Now I'm back. That's the issue, folks. Oracle Park, where the Giants play. Chase Center, where the Golden State Warriors will play this fall. So imagine, so basically, if the Raiders are allowed to play here, you would have both the Raiders and the San Francisco Giants here. In other words, NFL and baseball, right? And then NBA, National Basketball Association here. 3 sports leagues unprecedentedly located within this corridor. And, all right, you see that? Now, you would say, okay, Zinni, so what? Well, I'm glad you would say that, because the so what is, first of all, this is 4 miles. This corridor already underwent an environmental impact review for the Warriors' new Golden State Arena. And that review included traffic from Oracle Park. It did not incorporate at all the possibility of a National Football League team playing here for not 1 but 2 years, okay? All right? So that's the problem. And now, as per my conversation with my friend Matt Haney, who is one of the members of the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, he was under the impression, as per the proposal they were given, get this, as per the proposal they were given, that there would only be 7 Raider games. 7 Raider games in 1 year. Now, if you know NFL football, you know that an NFL season consists of 16 games, 8 of which are home games, right? So I explained to the supervisor, I said, supervisor, that's 8 games. And it's actually 2 years. He goes, no, it's 1. I said, no, it's 2. Because the Raiders are not going to move into Las Vegas Stadium for a full 2020 NFL season. It's not going to be ready. The stadium is slated to be finished, they said substantial completion, July 31st. But there is also in documents, have reported this, which is where I got it from, the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee documents, a 3-month move-in date. So let's do some quick figuring. Let's say August 2nd, stadium's completed, construction's completed. You got a 3-month move-in date. So you go August 2nd, September 2nd, September 2nd, October 2nd, October 2nd, November 2nd. All right, so let's be kind. Let's say it's October 31st. So let's give them October. That still leaves you without the ability as the National Football League to play a full season in Las Vegas Stadium. You can't do it. Okay? So where are you going to play? The Raiders would have to have a 2-year deal, not a 1-year deal, or 1-year deal with an option for a second at Oracle Park, just like the Coliseum, right? But the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, if I understand Supervisor Haney, was led to believe a bill of goods that was only going to be 7 games for 1 year. No, it's 8 home games. I said, not only is it 8 home games, Supervisor, it's 2 preseason games, so that's 10, right? Plus, possibly, if the Raiders go to the playoffs and make it to the AFC Championship game, 2 playoff games. So you're looking at 12 games. 12 games that will be played at Oracle Park, not 7 in 1 year. Times 2, that's 22 games in 2 years. So you are basically packing the impact of playing all those major NFL games in this corridor. Now, let's say that that's the case. The Warriors start playing basketball down here, late October, November, right? So you've got both basketball here and football, right? But then football also bleeds into October if the Giants happen to go to the playoffs. Okay, so let's say the Giants go to the playoffs. Cool. You have more activity here. You have Giants game lets out from the playoffs here. Warriors game lets out here. Okay, and then maybe that's on a Saturday. Maybe then on a Sunday you've got a Raider game lets out. So you've got all of this traffic pressure that no one anticipated before. All right, constant clog. And that's what you're asking for. Okay? That's what you're asking for. So there has to be at least a discussion, if not an adjustment to the, if not a special environmental impact review regarding this, because of the fact that its impact is not minimal. That's what is being looked at here. So I hope you see that this is just not a simple case, all right, of this is not a simple case of the Raiders just waltzing into San Francisco and saying, we're here, let us play football at Giants Stadium because you've had other football games there. No. What the San Francisco Giants have had is a situation where they've had, football and XFL in the past, certainly, with baseball, but never a situation where it was the NFL, Major League Baseball, and basketball just down the road. And not only that, on Muni, get this, because what I forgot to tell you is this, all right? You see this? This is served not just by car, all right, but it's also served by Muni. Maybe I can click on this. I don't want to drag to change the route, but let me just go to satellite and click on it so I can show you what it looks like from a real life point of view. This is what it looks like, okay? That's Oracle Park. That's 4 minutes. I said 4 miles. It's not 4 miles, I'm sorry. It's 9/10 of a mile. It's much shorter. It's 4 minutes. Again, it's 4 minutes, not 4 miles. 4 minutes. See that? 4 minutes, 9/10 of a mile. 9/10 of a mile separates Oracle Park and Chase Center. The Giants and the Warriors. 9/10 of a mile. Yeah, the Raiders would be the Raiders, the Giants, and the Warriors, all here. Okay? Basically, 2 Oakland teams folding into San Francisco in a fall. That's a lot of traffic, folks. That's what would be there. And so you have to have a new environmental impact report to deal with the question of how Muni is impacted. And again, it's not the Raiders itself, but it's the Raiders plus the Giants plus the Warriors in this corridor. It could be a new sports corridor. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. All right. Let me see if I can zoom in. This is 3D. Let's see what happens if I zoom in here. If I go down here a bit, the Chase Center, right? And maybe I can get a zoom in right there, right? See where we're at. Okay. Chase Center. It's obviously a lot further along now than it was here. Okay. Now they've got construction here. Okay. So this is the Muni line here at 3rd Street. So you can actually get on Muni here, all right, and go up. Plus you've got USF Mission Bay. You have student housing over here for USF. This is the medical center. You have student housing. That's a student housing complex right there, okay? This is all Mission Bay. San Francisco Police Department, Mission Rock Brewery, okay? Channel Mission Bay. Okay. Then you go over China Basin. There's McCovey Cove. And voila, there's the public house. And you can walk from here down to there. Again, it's just 9/10 of a mile. You see that? Okay. Okay, go 3D. Give you a look. That's what it looks like, all right? Now let's go from a 3D perspective. You can get a better idea. Okay, you see that? You see how closely knit this neighborhood is? You don't go down far and then voila. And imagine this big bulbous thing right here. All right. And then we zoom out just a little bit. Okay. All right. And maybe just one more again. Look at this. You see that, folks? You see how close together they are? This is a 3D view. Let me move this down just a little bit. Look at that. That's a 3D view. So I'm not exaggerating the impact of the Raiders coming into this area and presenting the very real scenario of traffic jams on the weekends up and down this corridor. Pressure on Muni, transit, everything else, okay? At all, nothing. Hey, 831 Scott, how you doing? 831 Scott says, is there any info Mark Davis would have to pay for rent? I haven't heard anything. I can tell you, by comparison, here's the problem I have, okay? The problem I have with the entire story is it implies that discussions took place. What we don't know is if discussions really took place last week at all. And I say that to say this. I saw Mark Davis the day before, where Steinberg's Super Bowl party, I was there, Arif Khatib was there. I heard Mark Davis tell a bystander that he didn't know where they were going to play. That was just the day before, that evening here in Atlanta at the Believe Music House. So how do you go from not knowing one day, unless he's just completely lying, to the very next day saying, oh, we got to deal at Oracle. Oh, we got to deal at Oracle, okay? All right? So my point is that, and not only that, you know who was there with him? Dan Ventrelli, his attorney, the Raiders attorney. I know because I shook Dan's hand. There were a number of Raider people that were there. And there were a number of people that were there for the Super Bowl. Okay. So, I didn't see Mark Bidet? No. Bidet does the negotiations? Yes. But that doesn't mean by extension that Bidet was off with the Giants. We're all going off of a tweet that Raj Mathai put out without investigating it. They may not have met at all. There may have been a nice quiet period. You see what I'm getting at? So, you know, 831 Scott, when you asked that question, is there any info on what Mark Davis would have to pay to rent Giants Stadium versus what he'd be paying at the Oakland Coliseum, all right? And I know you're not saying I assume that they talk. I get that now that I'm thinking about it. But I'm making the point that don't assume that they talked last week just because of that tweet. Don't read into that. We don't know. And it would be great if Raj had just simply gave us some more information, okay? But I can tell you from the information I've gotten, I have no indication from anybody that the Raiders actually met last week. Now, in terms of rent, I think if I had to type it, if I went to Google and I typed SF Giants XFL rent, in other words, how much did they rent to the XFL, right? And I haven't been able to find a quick answer to that. And of course, we know what the Raiders have paid there. The big kicker for me is not so much the rent issue, but it's the game day expense issue. The Coliseum has paid the game day expenses for the Oakland Raiders for the last 23 years, totaling present value $207 million. That includes $9 million last year. Part of that came from the pocket of the city of Oakland. This is where the city and the county of San Francisco come in. Will the city and the county of San Francisco be willing to pay security for Giants games? The Giants do not have their own police force. That comes from the city of San Francisco. So the question is, all right, SF Giants games, SF Giants games, security costs, security, the security jobs, security cost. Let's see what it comes up with. I know what the cost of parking. Oracle Park, special events, and there's no listing of what the city and the county pay, San Francisco pay, to provide police, police and expenses. Let's see, SF Giants games, police. How about police costs? Police cost, right? This is separate from Giants paying their own stadium, okay? As someone's tried to make there, okay? And yeah, there's no, interestingly, no one's ever done anything on this. Because I know that, and you know, if you've been to any Giants game, that police officers abound, helping to, direct traffic and disperse crowds and unruly fans, if they get unruly. That cost is borne by the city and the county of San Francisco. Okay? And then, of course, there's damage to San Francisco Muni buses. That happens at times, okay? October 29th, 2012, 36 people were arrested for trashing San Francisco after the Giants' World Series win. I remember that. Who pays for that? City of County of San Francisco pays for that. The Giants fork over the cash? Well, then that begs the question. Would the Raiders fork over the cash? Right? So all of this has to be worked out. Okay? This is not a simple exercise, because you're talking about a major public-private event gathering. Why do I say public-private event gathering? Because it attracts the public, but it requires a dollar amount payment to enter. That's why I say that. All right. So Cesar Canete, is that how I pronounce it? I apologize, Cesar. Cesar asked, if they were looking to stay in the Bay Area for one more season, 2, why couldn't they try either Stanford Stadium or the Cal Berkeley Stadium? Excellent question. Cal has a moratorium, I thought it was a moratorium on pro sports there, and I know that it went under challenge a few years ago. I have to check and see. I can do that right now. Cal Memorial Stadium, professional pro football. That's what I'm typing, okay? And what I get, let's see here, new features, game day visits, Cal football, Memorial Stadium tickets, UC Davis, still rumbling. Let's see here, I'm trying to see if there's anything, because I know they talked about having the XFL there, and they couldn't make that work, XFL. Cal Memorial Stadium, Berkeley. I had Berkeley, okay. Oakland bows out. Yep. Now, the university refused the XFL's proposal to play in January, but I'm more interested in what the reason was, okay? And yeah, San Diego's dead. No, that's not happening. But as I recall, and let me go back to the Wikipedia entry to see if it has any reliable addition. As I recall, hey, John Marks, as I recall, the Berkeley City Council took a vote to disallow pro football from being played at Memorial Stadium because the residents were just going bonkers. The Raiders played there in '74, and they haven't been back since. And I'm going back through its history, other major events, and Oakland Raiders. The NFL's Oakland Raiders played their second game of the 7-3 season at Memorial Stadium, and that was against the defending Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins. It was removed from the Coliseum because of a scheduling conflict with the A's to California Memorial Stadium, and they won there. 12-7 victory on 4 field goals by George Blanda. Ultimately, in response to traffic and parking issues associated with those games, and the city of Berkeley passed a professional sports events license tax, which the city collected 10% of all gate receipts, making the staging of professional games inside the city cost prohibitive. The Raiders were granted an injunction from the city collecting the tax, arguing that the tax was a regulatory measure rather than a revenue measure and was therefore an improper regulation on land held in trust by the regents of the University of California. However, the grant of the injunction was reversed by the California Court of Appeals, who found it to be a revenue measure, despite the fact the city had made the measure immediately effective due to danger to the public peace, health, and safety of the city of Berkeley as a result of the holding of professional sports events there. And I think that you can just see from that complicated relationship there, it's hard to deal with. Berkeley's hard to deal with if you're trying to bring professional football there. So I think the Raiders just simply would just soon pass. And now, have they even approached Stanford Stadium? I don't know that they have, but I can say, having been a constant and frequent visitor to Stanford Stadium for Cal Stanford big games over the decades, I did say that, over the decades, Stanford Stadium, while being a very fine place to watch a football game, is not NFL level ready. And in terms of its seat design, now, could it be made NFL ready? Sure, it could be. At what cost? I would say that to make Stanford Stadium NFL ready would probably be on the level of what it takes to make StubHub Stadium ready. But also something else, and I need to, I'm really just talking out of speculation. I need to check in and find out what Stanford officials would say about there. Maybe they have been approached and just haven't made a public comment about it. But I can see a number of reasons why it just wouldn't work out. Among them, if the Raiders played at Stanford Stadium, technically, that is a territorial rights violation. So, because in order to play at Stanford Stadium, you would need Jed York of the 49ers to say, yes, you can play at Stanford Stadium. But then Jed would say, instead of playing at Stanford Stadium, why don't you play at a truly NFL-ready stadium, that it's an NFL stadium, my stadium, which is just only located a few miles down the block. Okay? So that, I think, is the primary reason why you don't see the Raiders at Stanford Stadium. They've got Levi Stadium right there. But then, of course, Jed would say, I need $14 million, either from you, $15 million, either from you or somebody else. And then, of course, there's that issue who pays the game day expenses again. All right? John John Mark says, Cowboy Rush says, Berkeley has always been very picky with regard to what events are held at Cal Memorial. John Mark says, is Oakland officially dead in getting the Raiders to play in 2019? No. Not at all. No. Oakland's not officially dead. No. Cowboy Rush says, wait a minute. Didn't Stanford Stadium host the Super Bowl in the 80s? Yes, they did. And I'm glad you asked that. Because that came from a 12-page proposal that was prepared by San Francisco Mayor Dianne Feinstein in 1983. It was just 12 pages. By contrast, the bid book that I submitted to the National Football League was 300 pages, including technical documentation. Several binders. Okay. And that was 1999. So, but yeah, that's how that started. And not only that, the 1984 Super Bowl remains the only Super Bowl where the home team, the San Francisco 49ers, the home region team, played in its home region. That's it. Okay? 49ers versus Dolphins. That's right. Great game. Dan Marino passed well, but Joe Montana just turned in a performance that was a thing of beauty. And Roger Craig was an amazing virtuoso performer. But I digress. Cowboy says also, I believe the 49ers played there after the earthquake. Yes, that is correct. Oh, by the way, someone else said I was talking with a group of media people and media center here in Atlanta, and they said, boy, that Coliseum is a dump. And I said, yeah, it's old. But you know what I should have thrown in is this. That dump survived one of the largest earthquakes in history, the Loma Prieta earthquake. 6 on the Richter scale. No damage. No one talks about that. You know, in trashing the Coliseum. That's why I thought the best idea for the Coliseum was to basically repurpose as much of that material as possible and modernize the thing. You know? Change around the design in a way that a tighter football stadium, but keep that material and that base structure and strengthen it even more so it can withstand a 9 on the Richter scale earthquake, right? Why not? That thing is strong, man. No one talks about that. That structure's strong. That's building something. I mean, I would be willing. I'd be willing to offer Godzilla a challenge. No fire. Just see if you could, like, you know, step through it a bit. See how long it would take him. It'd be one tired monster. Serious. You know? Think about it. The Godzilla King Kong Stadium Challenge. Who can destroy it faster? Godzilla or King Kong? No fire. Cowboy Ressa says, ironically, the earthquake happened on my last week living in the Bay Area before I moved to Southern California. And John Mark says, it's still a beautiful stadium, the Oakland Coliseum. It's a shrine to sports in America. And I think it should be thought of as such. In fact, I'll say this, and I'm going to make a special vlog about this. The 100th year of professional football of the NFL should include the Oakland Coliseum. I know there are people who want to do it in Las Vegas, but you know, let them have 2021 because they're going to be ready then. But let the Coliseum of Oakland be the place. With all the NFL's history, it's fitting that the Coliseum, not Las Vegas Stadium, the Coliseum, be the home of the Raiders to celebrate NFL 100. That makes sense. Don't you think that makes sense? I think that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Okay? NFL 100 ought to include the Coliseum. I mean, Did you see the video the NFL put out during the Super Bowl to celebrate NFL 100? Who did they start off with? Marshawn Lynch. Right? When I think of Marshawn Lynch, I think of the Raiders at the Coliseum. I don't think the Raiders in Las Vegas. Now, some of you might say, well, I think of Seattle Seahawks. I get you there. We share the wealth. But my point is, Marshawn had some good games at the Coliseum. I remember when he was, dreads flying, jamming to the rap hip-hop beat at no other place than the Coliseum. That place was rocking, man. You understand? Wow. NFL 100 should be at the Oakland Coliseum. It should include the Oakland Coliseum in its plans. How many great NFL moments have occurred at that stadium? Dump my rear. How about the Sea of Hands play? Remember? My goodness. Ken Saber throws it up in the sea, comes down, and was it Van Egan that caught that pass? Was it in the end zone? I think it was against the Dolphins. Alo Cosal loses it, had that iconic image of him pumping his fist like that in the air. Alo Cosal taught me all the NFL politics I know. All right? So, and John Marks reminds me of the Heidi game. The Heidi game pitted the New York Jets, the visiting New York Jets, against the Oakland Raiders in 1968. The NBC television network unwittingly cut away from the game as the Raiders were trailing by 2 touchdowns. The Raiders came back to win with 2 late scores against the Jets in what was called, and is still called today, the Heidi game. There's the AFC Championship games that were played there before the Raiders went to the Super Bowl. Both Super Bowl 11 and of course Super Bowl 23. Well, depicting the Raiders versus the Bucks. So there's so much history, Clarence Davis, thank you for correcting me. Running back Clarence Davis, not Mark Van Eeghen. Although Mark Van Eeghen was his running mate. Clarence Davis, thank you. Zenny, man. Joseph, how you doing? Raider Nation, yeah. Clarence Davis. I mean, just so much history, Otis Sistrunk, University of Mars, who I credit with basically causing me to meet me as a guy who didn't like pro football when I was a kid to become interested in pro football. Not kidding you, okay? Cowboy Russ says, I'm old enough to remember when the NBC did the color presentation ID before every show or sports event. Me too. 831 Scott says, agreed, Cowboy Wrestler. Mark Davis was lucky the NFL didn't approve the move to LA. And it reminds me of something that Mark said to me when I first met him. And yeah, Mark really bothered me on Saturday. He said that he was mad at me because I said he was racist. And I have a rule. I don't get in arguments in public with people. Okay? I like Mark. I've said that before. I have nothing against him. And I hope that one day we can sit down and talk. He said we're going to talk about it. But as I recall what I was referring to, I said, first of all, that Mark should not have made fun of T. Martin, as it came across, because it made it look like he didn't value a black young head coach for the Raiders like T. Martin. Arguably, T. Martin may have come in as the Raiders head coach and posted a better record than John Gruden did his first time out for less money, $20 million versus $100 million. There's this constant idea that the black person in any walk of life is not valued as much as the white counterpart. That's institutional racism. Okay? And I said that I felt that Mark was more comfortable with those who are African American, who played for the Raiders, who had some connection, but he didn't have a lot of relationships with people who were high-level African American who had nothing to do with football. Nothing to do with football. And I'm happy to be wrong. But what I was really chomping at the bit about was he asked me to form a stadium plan for him. I not only did that, I got him the best investment banking organization, one of them in the world. And then I saw him at the Schaumburg NFL owners meeting, and I said, Mr. Davis, I have $2 billion for you. He didn't sit down with me to discuss the details around why I would say that, or Piper Jaffray or anything. And he was the person who asked me to come up with a plan. Okay? But what I wish Mark would stop doing is every time I see him playing out whatever little thing he may think he has, or maybe one of his staffers told him, maybe Bedane told him, trying to res him up, you know, whatever he has in his head about me that he thinks is negative, bringing that up in public. That's not a good thing to do. You know, I would never treat him that way. Again, I have nothing against him. All right? But he's done this. It's like again and again and again. It's kind of like, oh, man. And I just, and it was in the context, too, of me congratulating him for the $250,000 that he gave Oakland schools to help save Oakland sports, and the award that my friend, longtime friend Lee Steinberg gave him. So I put out a news report about that. That's positive stuff, right? So you just keep it positive. Keep it nice, man. That was cool stuff. This is great. Right on, man. Oakland schools need that help. Okay? And then I've given the Raiders a ton of advice off the record about how to handle different problems. So if I didn't like the Raiders, I would never do that. I wouldn't care, right? So, you know, there you go. There you go. Maybe one day we'll have that conversation over a great lunch or dinner. I hope so. And Cowboy says, wait, you spoke to Mark over the weekend? Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I saw Mark at, this is right here on this channel, Lee Steinberg Super Bowl party, where Lee Steinberg, Mark gets an award from Lee. That's where I saw him. And Owen says, what do you think is going on then? Can you clarify that? Cabaressa says, wait, you spoke to Mark over the weekend? Yes, I did. Tom Kohler says, what is the status about the stadium in Las Vegas? Is it way behind schedule as far as I know? Yeah, it's behind. I'll explain in a second. Soldier says, what do you think is going to happen, plain and simple? To what? I ask you, Soldier, plain and simple. That's not a plain and simple question. That could be, what do you think is going to happen to what? The Raiders here or there? What? I mean, that's kind of like, there's no plain and simple. And by the way, this is a Zenster channel, as John Marks and others will tell you. This is a thinking person's channel. There's no, we don't do plain and simple. We make you think, okay? Sorry. Welcome to the 70s, before the internet, when you had to actually read and figure things out. From an internet guy. Ha. Okay, but someone very recently said, we had dinner at the St. Regis. If you ever come to Atlanta, you want to have a great dinner, the St. Regis in Buckhead, the Atlas, had Leviathan wine. Putting in I don't drink on a regular basis. You know, I used to go out, you know, have all that, but I don't. But, like, I think it's like 3 months apart. And then I had 2 glasses of red wine that were about maybe, you know, this big each, right? That was it. Leviathan. Leviathan wine. I got to look that up. This was, what is this? Leviathan. And Leviathan wine. Yeah. Leviathan red. Hey, it's just $44. Then why the heck was our bill? Well, whatever. We had Leviathan wine. I'm getting that's some great wine. Ooh, doggy. Oh. Anyway, okay. Now, our Arcot says, isn't it true the Raiders donate to Oakland schools because it's their lease and don't have the money? You know, someone else brought that up, but what I remind people is the idea, as I understood it, was the new lease. The one that's still unsigned, the extension, was supposed to have that. Okay? And I'm going to do the Raiders a solid here. And I'm going to say that I believe that, yeah, the idea very well may have been put in Mark's head from that discussion, but he didn't wait. He didn't wait until the lease was signed to do it. All right? Because that came out last year during the conversation regarding lease extension that's still unsigned, all right? It wasn't the lease before that, okay? So I'm going to give Mark the benefit of the doubt here, just by, first of all, by desire, because again, I don't want to have a negative relationship with Mark Davis. That's not my desire, but it is my desire to tell things like they are, as I see them, okay? In the hopes of getting to a better world, as they say. In this case, a better situation for the fans and the Raiders and everything else. So you can have, you know, as close to the right information as possible. Now, if you track the flow of information, okay, if you track the flow of information, that idea did come up during the initial discussions. But again, it was supposed to become part of a lease extension that would carry the Raiders out until they left for Vegas. That lease extension is still unsigned because of the lawsuit, but it didn't stop Mark Davis from his action. Also, Mark and Lee Steinberg have been friends for 45 years. Going back to when Mark was a season ticket holder, and, when Lee Steinberg was a season ticket holder, and Mark was living in Oakland, and they happened to meet after Lee signed Steve Bratkowski to a $650,000 four-year contract, which doesn't sound like much now, but then it made him it was the largest rookie contract in NFL history with the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so Zarin Cruz says a lot of benefits going on for tax purposes, anyways, contractual reasons or not. Well, yeah, I mean it is a write-off, but the whole point is, look, it's a huge amount, and it was needed. Give the man credit. Why not? Okay. 831 Scott says, Seton Cruz, I expect it because I don't believe Raider fans will fill that stadium to begin with. I think it will be full of opposing teams' fans. You're talking about Raiders. Someone else asked me about the status about Las Vegas, all right? And I'll get there. The stadium in Las Vegas will be ready by late October, November 2020. Be ready for play. It's supposed to be finished, they say substantially complete, July 31st. But what does substantial mean? Bottom line, are you going to move into your house if it's still under construction? Are you going to let something hit you on the head because it's still under construction, you're living in it? I don't think so. You're going to wait until it's finished. Hence the 3-month move-in date. It's only logical. I put this to Rick Vallota of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, who was tweeting out, Zinni and I have a bet. We don't have a bet. I'm not going to take his money. I'm happy to meet him for dinner, but I'm not going to take his money over something stupid like that. Here's the reason. I don't think that's something to bet on. You don't bet on the safety of people. You want the stadium done right. Otherwise, riddle me this. If you're pushing 2020, are you one of the people out there pushing this, knowing that there's not going to be a full NFL season for 2020, making people buy PSLs? That's fraud, man. You don't do that. Stop doing that. That's not right. Okay? At all. Joseph says, the only people who think LA is transit city are the outsiders. Cowboy Russia says, Z. How you doing, Cowboy? He says, what do you think of the NFL's Los Angeles disaster? Because let's face it, it's a disaster that's getting worse every year. Are you talking about the constant cost overruns there, Zern Cruz says probably not good to take any more bets. Well, no, Zern, I don't mind taking a bet, but I don't mind losing. Now, if you're talking about one that my friend from the Fort Worth Star Telegram brought up, Clarence Hill, because I saw Clarence Hill at the media center. He goes, well, didn't you say that they weren't going to move? And I said, Clarence, I didn't think that the NFL would stick Mark Davis in that bad situation that's Las Vegas without money. I didn't. Now those of you who watch this regularly, remember what I said, because John Clayton, who I interviewed, told me Jerry Jones had engineered everything, okay? And I said, if the vote comes down, I'm just going to laugh. That's exactly what I did, right? I said that. In other words, my point is, when the information was brought to me that the NFL owners would go the other way, I didn't just openly say, oh, no, that's not the case. I accepted the possible outcome and went forward. There was a guy from Denver, who I'm not going to mention his name, who I had this bet with, but what he did was he put what he thought was my personal information out on Twitter, and that is why I didn't follow up. I've said this before, I'll say it again. That was classless, it was crude, and not only that, from, another perspective, criminal. You don't do that to people. Because, yeah, I was razzing him like, oh, yeah, do you owe me? You owe me? I mean, look, so what? All right? I was just having fun. I was creating what me and Mike Silver call a Twitter war. Have fun, because it get your followers and get your engagements and your channel, your Twitter account gets bigger and all that. That was a strategy, right? That was the idea, right? But he didn't play along. This other guy was a little, okay. So, that's how it seemed to me, at least. So I just said, you know what? I'm done. I don't care what you say. You can whine about the bet or whatever. I'm done with you. But my point is regarding when this stadium is going to be played. That's something that should be the focus of investigation. I really believe that, okay? Zern Cruz says, almost had a playoff game in Dignity Health. That would have been great. Calvin Versa says, I'm talking about the lack of interest in the Rams and Chargers. That nobody cares about them. Well, Jerry Jones says that only 7% of the NFL revenue comes from fan ticket sales. And you got to believe that's the case. Okay? The NFL really has to worry about how it looks in terms of fan interest, because I'm telling you, there's got to be. I'm just speculating here. I haven't studied this, but there's got to be a relationship between attendance and ratings and viewership. In other words, how can you expect people to consistently go to your games, or excuse me, how can you expect people to not consistently go to your games to a sellout level and then watch them on television? Okay? All right? Something's got to give. Now, in defense of the NFL and media, and Jerry Jones pointed this out at the CES party that I was at, and he's absolutely right. Okay? He's absolutely right when he says this. Yeah, sure. All television is facing, declines in viewership and increases in streaming. But because of that dynamic, the NFL's share of the decline, in other words, I should say, wait a minute, the NFL's share of media during the decline is bigger, relatively. In other words, it's losing less than other properties. And as a whole, the NFL is still the monster that rules television. Okay? I repeat, again, the NFL is still the monster that rules television. So, On says the Raiders should have been in LA. I still believe the Raiders in Oakland is an opportunity that has not been explored or understood. High-tech stadium with tech partners. That's a sad loss. straight up. Osmondias 714 says Raiders should have played in the Rose Bowl Stadium. Arcade says, isn't the NFL collective bargaining agreement up before the 2020 season? Yes. Either way, there won't be any football played in that stadium on time. Super had its lowest ratings in 10 years. Ding, 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 ding. Careful. It had set a streaming record, though. And I haven't seen all the streaming numbers from YouTube. I haven't gotten any information from the NFL. So we went through this last year with the Super Bowl, where we said, hey, ratings are down. People tried to bring in the whole anthem issue. And meanwhile, no one looked at streaming. The streaming numbers are in just for CBS. I haven't seen YouTube yet. All right? So I'm not saying that I expect streaming to save the Super Bowl. It's lower. Yeah, sure. Because the Patriots are there again. If it were, like, say, the Rams and the Chiefs, I think the Raiders would have been a lot better, because everyone would have expected a replay of the Monday Night Football game, with all the scoring and everything. This didn't give anyone that. And there are people who were saying again and again and again, oh, it's Tom Brady. And I'm sorry, because of that, you just didn't get the buzz. You didn't get the social media buzz until the Super Bowl itself, where all the Twitter worldwide trends were all related to the Super Bowl. Okay? But for the entire week, for Super Bowl week, the NFL was not, for most of the week, the dominant player. And the NFL should be concerned about that. Okay? I missed something you said about DirecTV contract, Zarin, something like that. Let me go back to see. That was an interesting point. And Zarin says, Zarin says the change in media ratios will get the DirecTV contract canned and a nice streaming platform launch sometime soon. Hey, who do you think is going to, that's a great point. Who do you think is going to launch that streaming platform? Soldier says, where are the Raiders going to play next year? Where the Raiders going to play? You're asking for a prediction, or where do I think they should play? I'm going to go with where I think they should play. I'm not going to predict. The reason why I'm not going to predict is because these guys are very much likely to make a bad decision. They should play at the Coliseum. It's the best deal they've got going. The Coliseum covers their game day expenses, including security. The transportation structure is already laid out. The politics are there. If Mark Davis and the Raiders say, you know what, we're going to be here through NFL 100. We're going to push all this other stuff aside. We're going to focus on football here. He'll win converts like that. I'm telling you, like that. Okay? I'll do it like that. Okay? So, do I think Derek Carr is going to be a starting quarterback as Las Vegas Raider in 2020? I would say it's a coin flip. Okay? Because, let's see, Derek Carr, and here's why I would say it would be a coin flip, all right? And it's not, this is nothing personal to Derek Carr at all. This is just a matter of analysis. Just a plain matter of analysis, okay? He was drafted 2014. So come 2020, that would be what, 6 NFL seasons, right? So, yeah, 6 NFL seasons. And he already has his new contract. And he's getting to the point where he's getting to the point where he's just over that point where you start looking at people considering retirement or dropping off. Okay, so I would say at that point he would be what, 28 years old. So I would say it's a coin flip. And it's a coin flip because of the quarterbacks just coming into this NFL draft. The fact that he's got a lot of wear and tear injuries. And the Raiders have 3 picks in the first round. You've got two quarterbacks. You've got Murray, who's also the golden boy with the A's, supposedly, and of course Haskins from Ohio State. You've got Amir Hall from Bowie State. You've got a lot of good signal callers coming out. All right. Tyree Jackson. Tyree Jackson is a stud talent. Okay. I mean, just straight out stud talent. So the handwriting on the wall, it doesn't look good. All right. It doesn't look good. Because he's not, I mean, you can't point at Derek and say, like Jameis Winston, hey, he was running the leading offense in the NFL last year. Talking about Jameis Winston, right? And that's not Derek's fault. Derek had been the victim of an unnecessarily unstable coaching situation. And for that, I feel sorry for him. Johnny Miramonte says some say QB's pop in year 5. I'm not sure how much validity that holds, but my gut says Carr will be replaced. He has some great throws, but he has some head-scratching throws as well. It's not his throws I'm concerned about because I blame the offensive coordinator. It's his status, his ability to finish seasons healthy because of wear and tear and age and everything else. But it's not even that. It's the talent that's coming in and the opportunity that presents for the Raiders and the fact that this talent is younger and more mobile, all right? So it's not, and I'm very deliberately careful to say this, it's not anti-Derek Carr. I'm not anti-Derek Carr. I'm simply looking at the horizon and seeing what's out there. Now the real question is, will Mark Davis, all right, will Mark Davis save him from any adverse move of that kind? And I think he would. Okay, I get the impression that Mark really likes Derek Carr, so it may be the difference maker in the end. He may have told Mayock, "Hey, look, do everything but leave my guy alone. Build it around my guy." Okay, so fine, nothing wrong with that. I think Derek Carr is a fine person to build the team around. So if the Raiders are going to do that and take him through Vegas, fine, But they need a coherent system that he can play within that has proper adjustments. This one does not. And needs a stable of backup quarterbacks that can play well in case he's injured and continue the team. And a better defense. The better defense is coming. Kevin says, do you think LeBron and his agent need to be investigated for tampering? No, that's a waste of time. Johnny Miramonte says, you're looking at it as a sense of opportunity cost with incoming talent? Yeah, thank you, I am. That's exactly what I'm looking at. Opportunity cost. That's it. 831 Scott says, sadly, I don't think we'll see an NFL team in Oakland ever again. Just doesn't seem like the NFL politicians want the NFL in their city. That's not true. The NFL politicians are tired of being disrespected. All right? Osmond Dias says, why do I got a feeling in the 2 years Gruden might draft Trevor Lawrence from Clemson? Because somebody else will beat him to him. And Kevin says, I blame Gruden's sorry system. There you go. All right, so folks, I am, it's 2:38 in the morning. I'm closing out. I want to thank everybody for coming on. I didn't expect to be on this long, but hey, we got to rolling. Zarin says, NFL will be back, but someone's got to want it. It's like when the Major League Baseball eventually lands in Vegas, someone will have to build all the things on their own. I want to close out with this. I think Vegas as a sports town is exciting, but Las Vegas needs to cut those resort fees in half. That is ridiculous. And stop this gouging. Oh my God. I mean, it's ridiculous, I love Las Vegas. 10 years and counting with CES Las Vegas. Love it, okay? Oh my God. And Zarin, you put out, yes, casinos are feeling the effects. The internet, You got the internet and the resort fees. You got the inside with the resort fees and the outside. And the conspiring to rip everything. It's like someone says, oh, it was the October 1st tragedy. Nah, actually it wasn't. The visitor decline problem started 6 months before that, folks. Back in June 2017. Earning too many nickels and dimes turning into tens and 20s. Hey, what can I say? And you know, the slot machines aren't paying. You go to Bally's, just click, nothing. Click, nothing. Click, nothing. Huh? Yeah, I said slots. All right? Some people like slots. Not everybody wants to do a table. All right. See you all tomorrow, everybody. Good night. Good night. Later. Thanks, everybody. See ya. Rise all right. Good night. Good night or good knit? Good night. Thank you. And writing, thank you. Thank you all. Okay. And again, once again, congrats, Mark Davis, on your award. There. All right. See you all.